Greetings, everybody. So you might wonder where I have been. And to tell you the truth, I have to put out this video, and that's where I've been. I could not do any other video until I do this video. And because, yet again, I'm going to talk about, if you don't want to hear about suicide, then you might want to not listen to this video, because this is what this is all about. And I feel very deeply that it is something that needs to be talked about, and we need to do something about it. And I know what we can do. So I want to tell you my first memory of somebody who committed suicide. And that was an elder. His first name was Albert. I was told he had a lot of back pain, and he took his own life. And that was my first encounter. Then I don't remember any others until there was a young lady in high school, a fellow classmate, who I heard was diagnosed with MS. She took her life. Later, in another classmate, I'm just kind of grouping these together. They happened over the years. I don't remember the years. Peter, don't know why he took his life. He was later in his life, maybe 10, 12 years ago, he took his life. And then the most recent was Bruce, who was more than a classmate. He was somebody I grew up with, but had lost touch over the years. He struggled so hard in life. He was bullied in high school, in elementary. He had a birth defect, and he was bullied about that. He had issues with alcoholism and drug abuse. And I would say within the last 5 to 6 years that he took his life. And before that, the closest person to me was my uncle, my mother's brother. He took his life. And he was older, and we don't all know why, but we assume it was pain and also emotional distress. And then there was my dad's friend, Charlie, who was diagnosed with cancer, and he took his own life. There was a young man that I knew and had met, and this is fairly recent. It was considered a gun accident. My heart knew. I asked people who was close to him, and it was true. It was a suicide. And, excuse me, Jackson, you were being a bad dog. You do not pick things up off the floor when you do not have my attention, because I'm not going to edit this video. So then there was a firefighter who was having some kind of issues. Jackson, come here now. You're going to come sit. Come sit now. I'm going to hold on to you so you don't do anything. So then there was Paul, who was a fireman. He had issues. He had anger management issues that I knew that was public and things for some reason. And he was closer to my age, a little older, I believe. And it was only a few years ago he took his life. And now we get to the closer to the reasons that I'm doing this video. Some of those people, especially the elders, were easier to understand. Somebody with cancer is easier to understand. Somebody who has lived their lives, but they are now full of pain. and they've just had it. You can understand that. But these two that I'm talking to you about, I don't understand. One earlier this year with my cousin's cousin. So in other words, his aunt was married to my blood uncle. My aunt was not my blood, but her husband was. And so he grew up with us, and his name is David. And I'm still angry with him. He would have been in his 40s. He had a daughter that he climbed the mountain with every Easter. There was intervention. They tried to stop him, but he did it nonetheless. And he did it on the mountain that he climbed, which is very special to our family. In many ways, my dad's ashes are on that mountain. And I'm still pissed at him. Not so much because, you got to be, you're pissed because they took their lives, yes. But you're also pissed because of where they did it. It was a special place to everybody. It wasn't just him. And I feel like he's, tainted that special place. And for selfish reasons, I don't know a whole story with him, but I do know that there was a lot of issues that I probably didn't all understand. I know that his wife ended up having a relationship with a woman, and I can't fault her for that. And as I understand it, and this happens a lot, it was not that she did not love him. She still loved him. In fact, she was the one that was very concerned and trying to get him help, which didn't do any good. He was going to do it, and he did it. So these things happen. But this last one that I cannot live with, and I feel this last one is we all have a responsibility. And I will tell you that responsibility after I give you this story. And this goes back several generations. So I'm going to give you the whole story and then tell you what happened. There was a young woman that was in attendance at my mother's birth. Her name was Flossie. Later in life, she had a daughter, and that daughter became friends of our family, really close with my sister, but she also ended up living in the valley with us, and I ended up horseback riding with her back in the day, and so we were close at that time. While she was in the valley, she had a daughter, Heather. Now, Heather went on to have two daughters, Ashley and Kylie. And I kind of watched these two grow up on Facebook. Families, friends, you don't always stick together. Our lives go apart. Dale always stayed with horses. I ended up doing other things. So our paths really never crossed. But I always paid attention to what was going on in her family because she was kind of like family. Our families had intertwined over the years. And so I watched Ashley and I watched Kylie grow up. Now, several years, I noticed that Kylie was gaining weight and that she was a chunky girl. And probably a year or so ago, I was like, oh, I really need to talk to her. I bet you she's going through a lot of the things that I went through when I was her age. And I kind of I hadn't seen Dale in a long time. I had met Ashley and the others, but I never met her. I had just seen pictures of her, and I'm like, well, that would be kind of weird. Hi, Dale, I really want to meet your granddaughter, right? I may have to check on somebody. So Kylie was 11 last year. 2 years ago, she was 11. She had to be 12. And she started really blossoming into this beautiful young lady, like preteens do, you know, they start changing. She turned 13 this year. And she took her life the end of September in her grandmother's barn, where the horses are. Her grandfather found her. You get over here. You leave things alone. Get over here. He gets real antsy when I do not pay attention to him. It stuck me like a knife because I knew this young lady had been bullied. Nobody had to tell me that. No, knowing that she was not a small girl. She didn't come from small people. Knowing how incredibly, terribly rude people are, that you have to fit into this mold, and if you do not fit into this mold, then you are worthless. That's how you're treated when you're overweight. If you don't fit into that mold, then you're treated. It doesn't matter how healthy you are. I mean, you could run circles around skinny people or so-called perfect people, and that doesn't matter. You're still deemed unhealthy, unworthy, and not good enough. And I am pissed off. And you know who I blame? I blame every single one of you out there. And you know the reason is because you don't love yourself. You have to believe you are good enough, because if you don't think you're good enough, you're going to project that onto other people. If you don't believe in yourself, if you don't believe in your heart that you're worthy, you're going to project that on other people. And you're going to project that on them and tell them they're not good enough and they're not worthy. And you're doing it to young people. Every single one of us has a responsibility to young people. Every single one of us. And that is not necessarily, excuse me, but my dog is freaking out. Bad dog, you do not chew on things when I am talking to you. When I'm doing other talk. And I don't care if people know that. He just starts chewing on things when I don't give him attention. And he needs to know he's a bad dog. So every one of us needs to get up and love ourselves and stop with this bullshit. Whoa, I got 10 extra pounds. Oh, I got 30 extra pounds. I got to get it off, or there's something wrong with me. And that's because you've been programmed to believe that there's something wrong with you unless you fit into the mold. Well, we need to break that goddamn mold, or we're going to keep killing young people. We have to break that mold. That starts with us. And I stand up in all my glory and all my 350 plus pounds. And I can stand them naked in front of the mirror and say, I love you because I'm worth it. I am a good person. There is nothing wrong with my body. It works perfectly fine. It works really well. And nobody's going to tell me differently. And I take care of it really well, and I always have. That doesn't mean I haven't struggled. I've struggled with weight until I found the proper way to eat for my body. And I will probably always struggle with weight, but that's neither here nor there. I have to love myself because I don't want to see another young lady, young person, and it happens all the time. And let me tell you, this has nothing to do with race, color, socioeconomics. It goes across boards because it has to do with loving yourself. If you have a parent that does not love themselves, they're going to project their fears onto their children. My grandmother had a thing in her kitchen that says, Diet or die. My mother was afraid of me gaining weight as a child. I was put on diet pills when I was Kylie's age, around 13. Oh God, Heidi's gaining weight. Oh God, we gotta stop this. Well, my heaviest, I ballooned up to 400 pounds because I didn't love me. And you know, at 400 pounds, I started loving myself. I said, fuck everybody else. Everybody that's projecting this shit on me. I had the present mind to say, you're projecting your shit on me. It's not me with the problem, it's you. I started looking at myself at 400 pounds, naked in the mirror, saying, I love you. And if you can't do that, you have issues. And a friend of mine said, well, I can look at myself from the neck up, from the chest up. You're going to carry that into every single relationship you have. You're going to project that because you can't look at it yourself. You're going to project that onto every single person you meet. It may not be outward, but it will be there, and it will be subtle. It will say, I am not enough. I am not good enough. I am a piece of crap. I do not matter. My body is not the best it can be. Bullshit. Get off your horse and get moving. If you do not have a weight problem, if you can get up and do everything you want in a day, there are no barriers to any activity you want to do, you have no issues. If you can go out and take a walk, if you can go take a hike, if you can go bike riding, if you can go hiking, and if you are still unsatisfied with your body, after you do all this exercise, then you are buying into the projection that there is something wrong with you, and you are putting that projection out into the world and harming all these young people. It has to stop, and it has to start with us loving ourselves. But believe me, if everybody loved themselves fully, without condition, and that has not come from me about looking at yourself naked in the mirror and saying, I love you. That is something that has come from people that have worked on self-worth. And I had a really big discussion with a friend the other night saying that, well, then that I am compassionate and I care about other people. And that doesn't mean you don't, but that means you have not let go of your baggage. No matter how kind and loving and compassionate you are on the surface, you are still carrying that baggage around because you can't commit to loving this vessel that you have in this moment. Yes, we are spiritual beings having a spiritual experience, but our vessels, our bodies are what we are putting forth in this incarnation, and that's what we have to accept and love with every ounce of our being. Because when we start to love ourselves, beautiful things start to happen around us. Does that mean I love myself every single minute of the day? No. Does that mean I get frustrated at times with my body? Yes. Does that mean I'm perfect? No. But I know if I can love myself, I can love other people. I can accept them. I can help them with their body issues and say, hey, look at me, honey. I made it through. You can too. Be true to who you are and love yourself for who you are in this moment. Don't love yourself when you get to your goal. Don't love yourself while you're on the way to that goal. Love yourself now. If you're just starting out on a weight loss journey, love yourself at your worst. Because you will never love yourself at your best. Because you will still be carrying that baggage around. And that's my rant, and that's where I've been. Love yourself so other people, young people especially, even young adults, middle age, do not have to die because they don't think they're worthy, because it starts with self-love. And I don't think there's any other way but with self-love. End the rant.